Hey there folks, thanks for stopping by. Here you can see the cabinet I've been working on for a handful of episodes here, just looking at the dovetails and checking out what we've done so far. And as you can see, everything is glued up and the dovetails have been glued and clamped, and everything's good to go here as far as the carcass of the plane till itself. We have our shelf dadoed in. There's a good look at the bottom dovetails. So yeah, I think we're ready to start on our back panel. So I'm actually re-recording this section of the video. Something happened with my storage on my camera, and I lost some of the footage of me making this back panel that all of the ham planes are going to lay against. It's not a huge deal. You really didn't miss much. This is just some tongue and groove siding, is what I imagined that it was, that came from the same house build that all of the rest of this lumber came from. So again, it's been sitting in the gentleman's basement that I acquired all of this 1-inch heart pine from for years and years and years, and it's basically just tongue and groove siding. So what you missed was me putting a little bit of glue in the tongue and groove and knocking it together, putting a few clamps on it and letting it dry. Other than that, you really didn't miss very much. It's a little bit snug in most places on it, except for this middle board. Somehow, I'm not sure how I did this. I managed to cut it about 3/8 of an inch shorter than the rest of them. This is not a huge deal. I can cover it up with a piece of trim, but I just figured I'd be honest with my mistakes. It was a dumb one to make, but I made it nevertheless. So now that all this is squared away, the next thing that we have to do is sand the entire piece. There'll be some strips that I'll need to make and attach here for the ham planes to be held in place. And then from there, I guess we're on to figuring out how we want to mount this thing. I don't know if I want to do a French cleat or if I just want to do a couple of nailer boards, but we'll move on from here and see what the project holds for us in the future. So this is going to be the one section of this build where I'm totally cool with using power tools. This wood that I got was a little bit gnarly. Like the heart pine that I had used for the case, it had been sitting in a basement and it was old and full of crud, and I really just didn't feel like sharpening my hand planes just to clean this wood up. So as you can see here, I am using a power sander just to get rid of most of the dirt and smooth these boards up a bit. So in order to secure my panel to the rest of the case, I'm going to need to make some cleats. And so what I've done here is I've actually taken a pencil and I set the panel itself inside of the case and leaned it back at an angle and just kind of played with it a little bit till I found something that worked with my largest hand plane. It's really the only one that'll even come close to filling the space. And then I just traced the angle here on the back of the panel. And what that'll allow me to do is just to cut a couple of cleats to sit in, and all I'm going to be cutting it from is just an offcut piece of the same tongue and groove panel. This is never going to be seen. I'm just going to glue and take some trim nails and attach it to the back of the case. I had debated on using my pin nailer, but that would be a power tool. So other than my sander, I'm trying to avoid power tools as much as possible on this project. So yeah, that's what we're going to do. Just cut a couple of little cleats and attach them here, and we'll be ready to move on. And I think about 5 inches is going to be just fine for these. They don't have to be very precise. So we're just going to use a little bit of Type Bond 2, nothing special. It's what I used to glue the rest of the case up with, and some little panel finishing nails. The only thing that we really need to keep in mind here is that we orient the flat part of this tongue and groove offcut with the back here, so that we can ensure that the panel sits nice and flat up against it. And that looks good. Again, nothing special. Just take a little bit of glue. We will put it on the back of our panel, like so. And stick it down. And again, this doesn't need to be anything terribly precise. We'll rub it just a little bit on this side. On the other side, I'll show a cool trick to keep it from sliding around. And that should work nicely. I'm not sure how well you can see the line here that I've drawn on this, but it is there. But one thing you might notice is that I went ahead and I started my nails before I put the glue on. And I should have done this on the first one. It just helps keep it from sliding around. Another thing that I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and put my glue on, just like last time. I'm going to put it, rub it for just a bit, pull it back up so now I have glue on this surface. What I have off to the side here is just some sawdust. Now I'm going to sprinkle it on that glue. It doesn't need to be a lot, just a little bit. What that sawdust is going to do is give the wood something to bite into, and you can tell already, just trying to slide it over to the line there. That's much grippier than it would be if I just left it alone, just bare wood on wood. A lot of people like to use salt. I don't keep salt in my shop, but I've got a heck of a lot of sawdust around, so for me at least that's the right option. This is a fantastic illustration of why I hate these cheap panel nails. They bend easy, they break easy, they're kind of a pain in the butt, but they're what I had on hand. And I believe they'll do the job. And there you can get a good look at my goofy little cleat on the back. You can see the purpose of it. It's not to provide a tremendous amount of structural support, but rather to help with alignment. When I'm putting this panel in, it can be a little bit of a pain to get it to line up just right. That is going to work nicely. And I think when I go to secure the panel itself, I don't think I'm going to attach it to the cleats or the sides, just in the event that in the future I want to change this panel out for something different. I want to have options. So what I think I'm going to do is just leave those cleats and this panel floating against them. I believe I'll secure a trim piece both to the top and to the bottom just to hold it in place. I'll probably attach those with screws. And what that'll let me do is pull this panel out if I ever want to. And it'll give something for the hand planes to rest on there at the bottom. So I think that's what I'm going to do here. All right, so this might look just a little bit silly what I've got going on here. But basically what I've done is just taken a trim piece and butted up to the top here to cover up my horrendous gap that I mentioned earlier. And I clamped it in place. And I just wanted to check with my 607 that it would in fact fit and still be willing to come out when asked to. And there it is. Comes out nice. Goes in. Sorry, I'm trying to do this one-handed while I film. There we go. And it goes back in with just enough clearance to allow a nice tight fit. So I'm happy with that. Now it's time to get the thing screwed in place. All right, so what I've got going on here is I've just set this on the ground. I decided it made more sense to screw in from the top than the bottom just because of the pitch of the hand plane till itself. This is a nice flat surface and easy to measure and mark on, so I've already measured out about halfway back, and I'm just going to make 3 marks. I think I will try and avoid that knot, though. And again, this doesn't have to have a tremendous amount of strength. It's not bearing any weight. It's just going to be there to help cover the gap and hold it in place. And now I'm gonna mark my marks with an awl. Just like so. Take our egg beater drill. Probably should have clamped this to the side of my workbench, but that's okay. Yeah, I'm making enough progress. And the important thing here is that we don't have to drill all the way through this. What I'm going to be using are these 1¼ inch. They're actually pocket screws because they're the only 1¼ inch screws that I had on hand. You can tell that planning is really my forte. And so I'm just going to countersink here and let the sort of self-tapping head on the pocket screw do its thing. So let me get these other holes drilled quickly here. Again, if you're watching this at home and thinking you might like to build one of these yourself, don't be like me. Clamp your bench to something, buy the correct screws and nails, plan your projects before you start them. All right, that's good enough for now. All right, we've got our countersink bit chucked up. Nothing special, just a simple countersink bit, and we are going to put some countersinks in. Imagine that. I do just want to check and make sure that the head of my screw will fit. That looks pretty good. This is the top of the cabinet, so it's not like anybody's going to see it, but you'll know and I'll know. When it comes to working with pine, I think I'll deepen this one a little more. These egg beater drills actually do a really good job as kind of a dedicated countersink. So even if you're like me, I have a drill and impact driver that I like to use. Keeping a countersink in one of these guys for just quick work and not having to chuck and unchuck if you only have one drill set is actually really convenient. That's a little shallow. All right, that looks good. We'll get the bit chucked up and get these screws driven home. All right, so I've got my pocket hole screw, I guess a square tip bit. I'm not sure what you call that, but it's what you use for pocket screws. And I went ahead and drove the first one home so I could get that clamp out of the way and give you all a little bit better of a view. One thing that I've noticed immediately is I've never actually driven a pocket screw with one of these egg beater drills, and I don't know if it's because they have aggressive threads or what, but these things are really quite tough to drive, so maybe next time I'll use a slightly larger size drill bit, but I guess if it's having to cut its way through, it is just pine. It's probably good to get a little extra grip. You can see there it gets pretty darn tight. I can't really spin it the conventional way. I've got to kind of get a goofy grip on it and really bear down, but yeah, that pulled that nice and snug. That's feeling good. I think this is going to work out nicely. Other side of this clamp. Yeah, boy. Yeah, and just like that. Now we have a cleat. All right, so now that we have our little back supports and our cleat in place up top, the next thing is I've decided that I'm going to do just a nailer, but I think I'll dovetail it in. So I've already got a piece of wood here that's approximately the right length. It's actually just a tick too long, but that's perfect. I can attach it with a couple of the simplest dovetails you've ever seen. These will be the easiest you ever cut, and yeah, that should That should work really nicely. My other option would actually be to, I guess, just cut, I don't know if that would be a rabbit or a dado in this orientation. Basically just slot it in so that it sits level with the back. But I think I'm going to go with the dovetail. I think it'll look better, and I think it'll resist lateral forces better than, I don't know if you'd call it a groove or a dado, but yeah, I think we'll go with the super simple dovetail. Okay, so I may try and do this in one shot. We'll see how it works out. What I've done is I've set my marking gauge to the depth of, not the depth, the thickness of the side panels. And I'm just going to mark out for my dovetail here. I'm only going to do one tail. Honestly, this is about getting a good glue surface that's recessed in. The dovetail is probably overkill, in all honesty, but I could use the practice. If you're like me, you could too. So cut the dovetail, man. All right, there we go. We're marked around all four corners. Let's see here. Chuck him up in the vise. There we go. Maybe I'll adjust you around here. Sorry for the shake. And I am not even going to mark my angle. What I will mark, let's see, we are 88 millimeters. So I think I'm just going to come in, I want it to be nice and sturdy with a big shoulder. I think I'll just come in a mil. It really doesn't need to be anything specific. That, I will carry that line across for no other reason than to guide my eye. Sorry, I'm blocking your view there. Okay. We will start on the far side. Kerf is established. And then I will come in at an angle. What angle? Don't know. Doesn't matter. I'm just taking my time. Careful not to twist the saw, because that's really easy to do. Same thing on this side. Oops. Got a little too zealous there. Okay, and just like that, we have the sides of our tail cut, I guess the tail of our tail. And is it important if those angles match? Not at all. What are those angles? I have no idea. Just like that. Come in with a chisel. Give myself a little trench for my saw to ride in. And just like that. Set that a little lower so that you can see it. There we go. All I'm going to do is come in and clean that corner out. Get rid of the fuzz. And that's it, folks. On that side, at least. There's really not much to the tail side of a dovetail, especially when it's one like this that really doesn't matter. Oops. Don't do like I just did. Damage the wood fibers there. Getting in a rush. You can hear the pitch of the saw change because it's just about, boom, to pop loose. Same thing as last time, we will clean it out with our chisel. And now we have a tail-shaped object. Let me cut the next one and I'll get back to you. All right, so we have two ends with two dovetails on them. Again, nothing special. If I'm being honest, I didn't even bother to check and see if this board was still square. It had been dimensioned at some point, I think. It was sitting in my pile of already dimensioned wood, but it's been there a while, which means it's probably not square anymore. But we'll carry on. So, what I'm going to do is just butt it up against the top piece here. Like that. Ooh, sorry for the focus. I'm going to take my marking knife and I'm going to scribe the extremities of the tail. This is going to be the section that I remove. Let me back that up just a little bit. My shoulder was a little cattywampus. I really must reiterate on these. They don't have to be perfect. This is on the back of the cabinet. The glue is doing the majority of the work. So we're going to let the glue do the majority of the work. Take my marking gauge. We will set it to the thickness of our nailer material. And come in from the side here and scribe a line. Just like that. Actually looks pretty good. Come back in with a square and connect those two lines. Drop my marking gauge knife, or my marking knife in my gauge knife line. Use the square to carry that around. Just like this, so I have a nice 90-degree transition. Oops, I did not go far enough. Just like that. All right. Now we have our waist. We'll come in with a saw. Sorry to block your view there, but I got to use my fingers to line this up. And then I'm just going to follow my line straight down. Now that I have my angle in this direction established, it's just as simple as following a line down. There we go. See if I can do this left-handed. Fun fact for you, I am a left-handed writer, but I saw right-handed. And just like that. Probably good to go. So I'm just going to cut some relief cuts in. And that's going to let me knock the waist out. Readjust here. Here's my intrusion. Oh, you can still see me. Come in, 1/2-inch chisel. I think that might actually work if I come from the other direction and not wedge it in place. Yeah, just like that. One thing I should have done was taken my marking gauge line in on the back side. It's too late now. Not a huge deal, but it would have been handy. Go into my gauge line here. Might get a little tear out on the inside of this, but I was just thinking about it. It's not going to matter. This piece is going to be covered up. So we'll see where we're at. Okay, we are pretty darn close. We are already at depth on that side and that side. Very nice. So, get a wider chisel. Come in at half our waist. See if that does it for us. This would have been a lot easier if I would have put the chisel halfway. You can see I'm able to push it there without even using a mallet. But if this section of the project has taught me anything, it's that I'm running out of time to get it done. We are close, so we'll practice what I preach here. Drop into my line, take about a half a cut. See how much easier that just glides through the wood when you're not taking a full width shaving with a 1-inch chisel. And here we go. Okay. That, I believe, is going to work. All right, cool. That's not going to seat all the way in until I get the other side. So let me get that cut out, and I'll be back with you shortly. And there we are, a front view of our dovetailed nailer. It's not perfect, but the panel's going to cover it up anyway. I'm really not trying to stress over any of the little mistakes in the project. You can see there that it's still poking out of the side. I need to either cut or sand that back, but better too long than too short. And so now I guess we're just about ready for a final sanding of everything and to attach the strips that'll hold the hand planes in place on the panel. And then I guess we'll get this thing hung and we'll be done, which is going to be a great feeling. So here's the front panel installed back in again. I thought I might need to take a moment and just verify that it would fit with the nailer in, and it fit really nicely. It's still nice and secure and snug, which is what we want. But I'm afraid I'm going to have to call it there for this episode. I can feel myself trying to rush, and rushing is going to cause me to start making mistakes. I've already made a handful, nothing that can't be fixed, but I need to slow it down. So for you folks, that means there'll be at least one more episode of this, possibly two, depending on how quick the finishing process goes. I've got that back nailer already glued in place, so we'll be ready to go soon enough with finishing this thing. But yeah, so on the next one, I'll probably do the strips to divide out the hand planes, and I have a couple of shorter hand planes that won't rest on the sort of the divider between the hand plane section and the bottom shelf. So I'm going to need to come up with some way to secure my number 4s, number 4 hand planes, that is. And then we'll figure out what kind of finish we want. I think I'll save you the sanding, so the next time you join me, it will probably have been sanded at least up to 120, and I'm not sure for a shop project that I'm really interested in going any further than that. But as always, thanks for stopping by. Hope you were inspired, and if you like this more kind of informal style, let me know. I could do it like this in the future. If you'd like to see a more in-depth tutorial on how I cut dovetails, that's something I've kind of kicked around, and if that's something you'd be interested in seeing, let me know that too. There are a lot of tutorials on dovetails online, and I'm far from an expert, but I enjoy showing my process. That's why I'm here, and hopefully that's why you're here. So again, hope this inspires you. Hope you get in your creative space and do whatever it is that you're passionate about, and I really hope you'll join me for the next episode or two while we get this thing finished up and hopefully hung and get that horrible looking thing in the corner relocated probably to the fire pit. So thanks for stopping by again, and take care. We'll see you on the next one, hopefully.